Let's begin by reading the example and highlighting important information. Compound interest is given by the formula A equals P times 1 plus R raised to the T power, where A is the balance of the account after T years, P is the starting principal invested at an annual percentage rate of R expressed as a decimal. So this first part is just explaining here's a formula and here's what all the different letters represent. So let's keep reading. Bill is investing money into a savings account that pays 2% interest compounded annually and plans to leave it there for 20 years. Now here comes the question because I see determine. So determine what Bill needs to deposit now in order to have a balance of $30,000 in his savings after 20 years. So I underline this $30,000 because this is actually given information to within the last sentence. So this is telling us what our goal is. We need to find what he needs to deposit now, but they also tell us to have a balance of $30,000, which they hadn't mentioned before. So this is a lot of information, a lot of letters. Let's just sort it all out. So we have A equals P times 1 plus R raised to the T power. Okay. A is the balance after T years. Okay. So another way to think of A is it's the future balance or the future amount, how much your original investment will be worth after it's accrued all of its interest. Okay. Then, so T, which we already referred to, is time in years of the investment, so how long you're going to invest your money, and invested at an annual percentage rate R. So R is annual percentage rate. And note it says to write that as a decimal. And also P is the starting principal. So that's the amount you initially invest. Starting principal. It's sometimes helpful to note that we use capital letters in finance formulas for amounts that involve money. So that'll help you make sense of those too. So let's again write the formula here, and now let's see what values we're given and what we're looking for. So here it says that the account pays 2% interest compounded annually, So the interest rate is R, and it says you need to write that as a decimal. So we're given that R, 2% as a decimal, is 0.02. Then it says he plans to leave it there for 20 years. Well, that's going to be T, the time in years of the investment. So we're given that T equals 20. And then remember I highlighted this 30,000 here. It says determine what Bill needs to deposit now. So that was the starting principal. That's what we're trying to find in order to have a balance or a future balance of $30,000. That's going to be our A, balance after T years, in his savings account after 10 years. Okay. So notice we started out with 1, 2, 3, 4 letters, and they gave us 3 of them, and we have to solve for the other one. Okay, so you'll almost always be given all of the letters but one when you're solving until later in the course. So now let's replace all of the numbers we know. So we know A is 30,000. Okay, we don't know P. Then we have 1 plus R, so 1 plus 0.02. And T is 20, so that's the 20th power. Okay. And we want to solve for P. Now, there's a couple of ways we can do this. We can evaluate this expression first and then divide, but I'm going to recommend, notice this is just p times this whole thing. Okay? So that means I could divide by this whole thing. 1 plus 0.02 to the 20th power, whatever this number equals when it's simplified, and I will get p by itself. And that's exactly what we're going to do. And as soon as I'll write it, I'll tell you why. Okay. We don't want to estimate too soon, so I'm going to cross these out. This divided by itself is 1. We're just left with p, and now we're going to put this in directly into the calculator. So rather than evaluate this and estimate the number, you want to put this in all at once because you can get round-off error. So that means if you evaluated this and rounded it and then divided, your answer could be a little bit different than if you put this in the calculator at once. So we have 30,000 divided by, in parentheses, 1 plus 0.02, close the parentheses, and we want to raise that to the 20th power. And we get this. Now I'm going to see what they wanted us to round to the nearest cent, or so Bill will have to invest blank now in order to have a balance of 30,000 in his savings account after 20 years. And it says to round your answer up to the nearest dollar. So we want to make sure that he exceeds 30,000 and doesn't just get close. So we're going to round this up to 90. So 20,190. Okay. And again, it said to always round your answer up. So this would be about 14 cents, but we rounded up to 190, adding $1 onto this. So our answer is $20,190. And notice, just point in fact, he made close to 10 grand in 20 years just by investing his money. So that's the power of compound interest. You just have to be willing to have money in an account and not spend it, and this is a pretty low interest rate too.